Hello, this is Steven now. Yes, we're back with another Batman 66 episode review. And today, Dynamic Trio, we're going up against the Penguin for the last time. So without any further ado, let's get straight into this review. We begin our episode at the Gotham City Mint, where the Penguin has just suddenly struck along, and he's brought along two henchmen and a new female assistant, Miss Clean. Whilst they are going through the mint, they are seeing essentially what makes the money. Green ink paper equals money. Just as that happened, we then cut back to Wayne Manor, where Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Commissioner Gordon, and Barbara are all there to ask if Bruce would help out on the committee for clean sweep, the littering campaign that Barbara is appointed head of, and will Bruce help to volunteer, which he naturally agrees. Just as that happened, Alfred comes in, but also while that happened, Gordon has a call. He then picks up the phone, and it's Chief O'Hara, who is basically telling him that the Penguin is back, and he naturally tells him to call Batman immediately. Alfred managed to have an excuse to have Bruce and Dick leave so they can go and answer the Bat phone privately. And whilst they're doing, they get a phone. They answer the phone with Chief O'Hara, where he says that the Penguin is back, broken into the mint, but he's just left. And basically Bruce says they'll be on their way. We do the opening credits, and then we see Batman and Robin rushing to police headquarters. Once they arrive, they run into Penguin, his female accomplice, and two henchmen, and arrest them, and take them to Commissioner Gordon's office. However, the Penguin uses this as an opportunity to sue for false arrest, as he's not stolen one penny from the men. However, Batman counter-argues this with saying, well, you have broken in, therefore your arrest is technically not false. And in exchange for you dropping the lawsuit, we'd gladly drop the charges. He agrees, and they all leave the office. When Chief O'Hara asked why not arrest them, he said they couldn't really hold him on those charges. And they're confused. Penguin breaking into the mint but not stealing anything. What could he have done? Batgirl then comes in and says that maybe he put something in the mint. With that, she also explains how she was driving by, stopped by the mint, and also found all the city employees fast asleep. But Batman says this can't be Penguin gas because it wears off. So next thing you know, they all head to the mint and investigate the current dollar bills, where they find out that it's been infected with some kind of bacteria. Basically, and the bacteria is something called Nigerian fruit fly, which is very contagious. And the Penguin has, when he broke in, managed to plant a colony on this ink to make this money. He then asked the officer if any bills have been sent out, which he said yes. Realizing that, he sends Batgirl to the bank to make sure this money does not get distributed, whilst he and Robin goes to the Gotham City Hospital to get some vaccine quick enough for this, before this spreads into an epidemic. As a result, we then cut to the hospital, where the Penguin and his men are getting vaccine needles. Just as they get all the needles, and of course get rid of all the vaccine so no one else could get, vaccinated, Batman and Robin burst in. However, the Penguin releases a Nigerian fruit fly, and he and his gang make their escape. Batman then locks the door to prevent the fly from getting out, and kills two of them, but manages to capture one to be used as a study specimen. He then asks the doctor to see if there's any more vaccine. He said the Penguins got rid of it, but he would gladly call up for more vaccination, and hopefully he'll be in here within the next 24 hours. Batman and Robin then head to the bank to hopefully the money was not taken. However, when they get there, they are all heartbroken as some money has been circulated. The only logical conclusion, he calls up Commissioner Gordon and he asks him to put out a warning for this money and how no one is to come in contact. The problem is they don't know with what money is legit and what money is contaminated, but they must take the chance considering the huge risk. As a result, on the news radio, it's said that money is infected and every citizen is literally throwing money on the road. And this is what Penguin wants. He and his gang are going through the road and sweeping up all this money. Of course, they run into Batgirl, but they quickly subdue her. We then cut to Bruce Wayne and Dick in Wayne Manor, where Bruce is having constant phone calls with other businesses and essentially important people around the world to tell him to not accept money from Gotham, considering the huge outbreak. We then cut back to Penguin and his men at his new hideout, where they have counted all the money, but he says there's still more on the street. As a result, he tries to spend some of the money, tries to buy a country, some diamonds. However, when he attempts to do so, he is refused because he says his address is in Gotham City and Bruce Wayne is partly responsible. He is then frustrated and he swears revenge on Bruce to never cross with the Penguin. We then cut to Batman in the Batcave, how they're doing more study, not just on the Nigerian fruit fly, but also on the weather. Alfred on the weather. Alfred does on the weather and tells him the precise degree. As a result, they then get a phone call. Batman suspects it's Penguin and it picks up. It is Penguin, and he tells them to call everyone and tell them to accept Penguin's money or he will release 5,000 Nigerian fruit flies on Gotham City. Batman, being Bruce Wayne, says no. And Penguin says, well, you just doomed Gotham. Hangs up the phone, brings out 5,000 Nigerian fruit flies and plans to spread them all over Gotham. They then plan to steal basically all the diamonds and jewels, strip the city clean as payback for him not being able to spend money. We then cut back to Police Commissioner Gordon's office, where Batgirl is there, with Chief O'Hara and Gordon asking essentially where is Batman, as none of them been in contact. They then get to call on the Batphone and tell him to meet outside the Gotham, essentially at the Gotham Bank, tell him to meet him there at once. We then cut to the bank where Batman, Robin, Batgirl, Commissioner Gordon, and Chief O'Hara are all asleep. The Penguin rocks up with his female accomplice, 2 henchmen, and 3 other henchmen, essentially 5 henchmen. Just as that's happening, they're gloating how they are all asleep, but then they all wake up. Penguin is shocked as they're supposed to be infected with the Nigerian sleeping sickness. But however, they can't dwell on it now. It's Penguin's final bat fight. And it's okay. It's fun. It ends with the usual, all the henchmen getting knocked out and the Penguin being essentially quickly subdued. He's then interrogated by Batman, Robin, and Batgirl as they explain the Nigerian fruit flies. And it turns out they are dead because when Penguin let them out, they didn't react well with the air layers, with essentially the air. The environment has essentially crushed the flies to death. And as a result, they can harm no one. But there is a problem. Because the Penguin and most of his got a double dose of the vaccine, it's more than likely he can contract the sleeping sickness by himself. And of course, funny as enough, he does. And that is the last scene we see of Burgess Meredith as Penguin. And I wouldn't have missed that for the world. It's a fun way to send him off. Maybe the quality of episodes he might have had, not just this season, but a little bit in season 2 may have dwindled. But despite that, you could always count on Burgess Meredith's performance shining in the rubble. It's always fun. Gordon and O'Hara come over and basically congratulate Batman on stopping the Penguin, but asking how he knew the temperature would be cool. Batman says he relied on a forecast saying it would be clear and cool. Gordon says no doubt about being cool, but those clouds don't seem to be clear and it begins to rain. We then see Alfred with an umbrella, and he basically says, well, even the best of weathermen is entitled to an occasional miss. We end the episode with Bruce and Gordon go to essentially Barbara's apartment to have a cup of tea. But however, Gordon then gets a phone call telling the 2 women, Calamity Jan and Frontier Fanny, have been visiting Shame at Gotham State Prison, and Gordon tells the warden, Warren Crichton, he'll be getting on it at once. And we end the episode with a shot of Shame, Calamity Jan, and Frontier Fanny in the prison's visitor room. And basically, we are told there's going to be a big caper with these 3, and tune in for the next episode. The cast here, first off, nothing really changes. I like how Batman, Robin, and Batgirl they are all coordinating together to take down Penguin. I think by this point, I guess the 3 working together effectively as a team, I think is really heavily cemented here more than any other episode. Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, they do very little to contribute to the story, like they always do. And Alfred helping out, not just at the end, but the last line he says in the episode, when being in the rain, is arguably some of my favorite bits of the episode. But of course, let's talk about the Penguin. Burgess Meredith is back for the very last time as the Penguin. Considering this is his final episode, it's kind of like how I feel with the Riddler, Egghead, and Catwoman. It can sometimes be a little bit underwhelming considering it's the last time, but despite the episode quality, the performance quality is still on point. Burgess Meredith has come a long road since season 1. He was arguably some of our favourite villains introduced in Season 1 and through the series and movie, Burgess Meredith just cemented his reputation of what it was to be the Penguin. No, I believe no one will ever truly come close to capturing the classic version of the Penguin. And I think that's a good reason why, because he is the classic version of the Penguin. Before the more modern mob boss, or even more sympathetic version, he was just an elegant thief who had enjoyed the thrill of a heist and the sophisticated crimes he committed. It's really sad that this is his last episode appearance. It really is. So thank you, Burgess Meredith, for all the memorable fun we've had with you. Of course, the good news is that Shane will be back in next week's episode, along with the new accomplice Calamity Jan and her mother, Frontier Fanny. So join us then when we review those episodes. Penguin's clean sweep is kind of like what Louis Lilac is. Well, not really. Not a lazy episode. I'd say it's okay. It's definitely way better than what we got with Nora Clavicle. But considering the quality of episodes we've had with Penguin in recent years, it can be considered a little bit underwhelming. But however, he is a genius in thinking for this whole plot. I can't really say it's a bad scheme, but yeah, it's okay, fun episode. It's an okay to fun episode. And there we have it. That was Penguin's Clean Sweep. Join us next time when the dynamic trio will be going up against Shane and his new accomplice, Calamity Jan, in an epic two-parter. Or is it epic? Only one way to find out the answer to that question. Tune in to the next Steven time, the next Steven hour. Ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.